Okay, so I want to give you some example for some niches that designers and agencies took and how that looks when you're working within a niche. So let me jump to a few websites. So the first one is actually my website, and I want to show you how that looks like for me. So I'm stating very early on that I'm working with startups. And even though I don't mention, now startup is kind of a very broad niche. I don't mention that I only work with B2B startups, even though that's kind of my sub niche. But I state early on that I work with startups. Now, if you go down here, you can see that most of what I write here is actually oriented only for startups, right? So I use terms that are relevant for them, such as I'm a full stack designer. So full stack is kind of a very tech startup-y term, and I help early stage startups. So here I'm kind of already starting to niche down even further. So if you're a big or a late startup or already a very successful startup, maybe I'm not a good fit for you. Now I put some logos here of where my work has been featured. Now if you're a designer, maybe you don't even know TechCrunch or Lifehacker or Fast Company. That's okay. If you're in the food industry, for sure these icons doesn't mean anything for you. But those are publications that are very strong within the startup niche. And so to them, that's very, very meaningful. And that's how basically I'm telling them from very early on that I am relevant to them. Now, another example for a great niche website is the website of Sumit. So he's stating very early on, your SaaS website is stopping you from doubling your MRR. So SaaS, that's basically his industry, software as a service, which is a subset of technology companies. And everything that he does here, from the images to the terms that he's using, such as MRR, which stands for monthly recurring revenue, basically means that he knows exactly their problems and he's speaking within their terms, and he's going to do what it takes to help them. And the whole website is again oriented at speaking directly to them. So this is not a generic I'm a designer. This is very, very specific to helping SaaS companies solving a problem that is unique to them. So I think this is really a great example of picking a niche and then creating a whole website that is dedicated specifically to talking with your specific niche. You can see how he's talking a lot about services that might be generic, but he's talking about their specific problems. Okay. The last example that I want to show you is this digital fuel company, which their niche is iGaming, which is basically gambling. So you can see that they're talking about igniting the power of your business. We know digital marketing word inside out, and proven track record when it comes to winning customers for iGaming businesses. So even though if I would build their website, I would put iGaming a lot bigger. You can see that in the heading here, it's called iGaming Marketing Agency, which is probably how they're going to get some SEO juice, because they're focusing on not just being a generic marketing agency, they want to win in the iGaming industry. And then when you're looking down at their services, and of course when you're looking at their clients, you can see the big names in online gambling, 888 and Bet33. So if you are in that industry, those logos are meaningful to you. And then they have some, awards that they won. But no, these are all awards in the gambling industry. So if you're in a different niche, that doesn't mean anything to you. But if you're within that niche, all that is really, really meaningful to you. And so everything that they do here is to become relevant within that niche. So I think those are some great examples. Now I want to share with you a little bit more examples from my students, just to give you an idea of what niches you can pick. And I'm not suggesting you pick these ones. These are quite original, but I just want to show you examples of what are some good niches out there. So one student of mine chose vegan food provider, and vegan is obviously an industry that's growing rapidly. And because it's kind of for a little bit of an upscale audience, a lot of these brands invest heavily in creating really good brands. So that's an example of a niche. Property developers. So this is an example to show you that when you go into something like property developers is obviously a subset of real estate, shows you that you niche even down further than an industry such as real estate, because even real estate is pretty big and property developers have different problems from real estate agents. So by stating that you're helping property developers, you can dive deeper into understanding their problems and communicating directly to them. A student of mine chose to work with influencers who are selling online courses. So that's a great niche because, these influencers usually know one another. They usually look to see what their competitors are doing online. So by focusing on helping them, he can tailor his needs, and he can tailor a very specific solution for, a brand and a website and a platform to host your online course that he can sell as a package for these influencers. And you can definitely understand how by focusing on them, what they need, in this case, for example, a platform to sell their online courses, is obviously different than what a property developer need or a vegan food provider would need. So now I hope that you can start understanding that by focusing on understanding the problems of a specific niche, you can develop solutions and packages and offering that are relevant, highly relevant to them alone. Another student of mine chose wellness brands, which is another segment of, you might say, e-commerce as a general industry. Within that, we have the wellness brands, and again, also a lot of times these are kind of like premium brands that invest a lot in customized branding and packaging and a lot of high-end web experience. So that's a great niche to be in. Another student of mine chose industrial processing and manufacturing. And that is such a bizarre niche, I would say, that I have honestly I don't even know what that means, industrial processing and manufacturing. But that's also why I love this, because this is so not regular, not so mainstream, that I'm pretty sure that if you would try to dominate that niche, industrial processing and manufacturing, these are huge companies, that are doing metal processing and all the infrastructure of where we live. These people probably have a lot of money and nobody's trying to talk to them directly. So if they will ever reach a website that say, I am the best designer for industrial processing and manufacturing, how many designers do you think actually state that they are the best for industrial processing and manufacturing? Not that many. So how easy would it be to dominate that niche that might have tons and tons of money just because nobody's even looking at this direction? The last example is residential architects, which is, I think, is great. Architects need to find clients. Usually their projects are big projects. And as I've mentioned, this is a subset of an industry, okay? You might even consider this a subset of the real estate agency, but from a different perspective. And I love the fact that he didn't just say architects, he said residential architects, because they might have different problems and budgets and needs than commercial architects, which designs office spaces. And the whole process of how a project might work for a residential architect is probably very, very different than the process and the type of client that commercial architects work with. So I hope that helps you to see how you would define a good niche that you can dominate, and gave you some examples and ideas that you can start brainstorming around.